Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am Christine Dixon of the Ordinary Sacred, and I wanted to do just a quick review of the steps in the internal family system's healing process. Last video, it was about an hour video where I explain the entire healing process of IFS from befriending the protectors, unburdening the exiles, checking back with protectors, establishing secure attachment with the parts over the next few weeks. And you can go back and look at that. It's a fairly comprehensive overview of the whole entire process in case your parts are curious about what does that look like? What is IFS all about? Um, but today I am going to just kind of do a little review of the steps to reinforce, because this is normally part of my IFS 101 self-paced course. And so review is always helpful. Now I am going to try to make myself bigger so you can see me, corner there. And let's see, I don't have where the bullet points are coming in gradually. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read this directly to you. So the first step really is to identify and map your parts. And you can just identify what you feel in your body, the kinds of, just kind of a list of what you're curious about, right? You can guess whether you think they're protectors, managers, firefighters, or exiles. That may change once you get to know them. You don't have to know that at all, but just maybe even just a list of parts that you would like to get to know. The second thing is to connect to your capital S self. You know you are connected to self when you feel curious and compassionate toward a part rather than judgmental or afraid, or you have any kind of agenda toward a part. If other parts are judgmental or have agenda toward a targeted part, simply ask them to step aside. And I don't always ask them to step aside. I'll ask them if they can stand next to me or be with me or give me space. Sometimes they'll get offended if you say, step aside, right? That sounds kind of offensive. So that you can learn more about the targeted part. You may need to ask several parts to step aside before you connect to self, and that is okay. You may also need to make them the target part. You need to ask what their concern is about you going toward the part you're going toward and meet their concerns before going any further. Okay. The third step, ask a specific part to show itself to you. So this is whatever is the target part. And a visual may come to you, or it may just be auditory or physical sensation. Any information is helpful. If you do see an image, know that it may change throughout the meditation. It can kind of shape shift. It can just be open to whatever comes. You don't need to make anything up. Just let whatever arises be there. Once the part is separate or unblended from you and you feel genuinely curious about it, you can ask questions led by that natural curiosity. You can ask what a part would like to be called, which can also change once it's healed or unburdened. You can ask how old it is, what it wants you to know, what it's experiencing. I'm going to do a video after this about some helpful questions that you can ask parts. But I would honestly, if you're in self, I would just follow your curiosity. And then step 4 is to ask the part questions to see if it's a protector or an exile. And I talked about that in the last video. When you ask, what are you afraid would happen if you didn't do this job? A protector is usually doing some job, right? And so it will have an answer to that question. It'll say, if I didn't do this, this would happen. While exiles just experience pain and intense emotions and often occur in very vivid memories. So, like my example last week was about a part feeling anxiety, right? If you ask, what are you afraid would happen if you didn't feel anxious? And it just says, I don't know, I just am anxious. then that means it's an exile. So number 5, step 5, acknowledge and appreciate the work of protectors. When you're curious and you start to hear about how desperately these protectors are doing their job, and what they're protecting, you really cannot help but naturally feel appreciative and express that to them. And sometimes you'll even feel awe about how hard they've been working all this time. And in all caps, always get the protector's permission to interact with exiles. And again, I talk in depth about all of these steps in the last video if you haven't seen that and you want to go through that. The 6th step is to heal the exiles through compassionate witness of their trauma, giving them what they needed in the moment, reparenting or redoing, and then retrieving them to a safe place and guiding them in an unburdening ritual. Then step 7, go back to the protectors to see if they would like to change their role, if they are able to stop being extreme or doing the thing that they were doing to protect, because what they protected is now healed. They're free to rest, to do something else, to play. And so they can kind of brainstorm what they like to do if they are ready to do that or not. And I do want to add, just like I did on the last video, imagine there's a step 8 here, and that really is to throughout the next 3 or 4 weeks, daily go in and check with these parts. Does not have to be a long time. It can be 2 minutes or less, where you bring the part into your awareness. And if you're visual, you can see how it's doing or what it's doing, or just check how it's doing. Maybe there's a knowing or there's a sense of its energy. Check how it's doing, ask if it needs anything from you. And that is really essential in building that secure attachment between the self and the parts, which really is what makes our inner world more secure and stable and rooted. And the parts know that even if and when the worst thing happens, they will have a compassionate witness. They will have a strong, comforting source inside. And that's really what makes all the difference. It allows them to take risks. It allows them to be confident in the world, to be creative, to have self qualities, right? Because they feel secure, right? And just like Dick's book says, you are the one you've been waiting for. That self inside of you is able to offer all these things that a lot of times our parts feel they can only get outside of us from another person, whether it's a partner or a parent or someone else, who inevitably can't do that for us. They can be beautiful secondary caregivers to us, but they can't possibly be our primary caregiver because they have their own self to take care of, and they can't read our minds. They can, unfortunately, they can't be there for us 24/7, but our capital S self can. It knows all of our history. It can read our mind. It can really get to know our parts. Of course, there are things that are even hidden from the self, right, in the psyche, that it can learn about through its own curiosity. And then through that compassionate witness, can heal parts and retrieve them from traumatic moments. And just wanted to make this video as kind of an overview of the steps in case you want to review it really quickly at any point. If you do have any questions about those steps, you feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you want to add anything or, comment on anything, you can do that too. And the next video in this series, I will give you some helpful questions that you can ask both protectors and exiles.